Hi, and welcome to the Caterpillar Cross Stitch YouTube channel. My name's Ford from Son of a Stitch, and this is the second video in my two-part series on Biscornu. My hair is freshly colored, my mustache is freshly pointy. Let's do it. Here at Caterpillar Cross Stitch, we are all about cross stitch, and we upload helpful and, we like to think, entertaining videos about it every single week. So make sure you subscribe to the channel so you don't miss our next knowledge drop. And in particular, if you like this video, give it a like and leave me a comment down below so that I know I should make more content like it. Likewise, if there's something you'd like to see me cover on the channel or a question that you'd like to have answered, leave that in the comments as well, and I'll add it to my list of future video ideas. Now, a couple people pointed out in the comments of the last video that I neglected to answer one very important question. What the f*** is a Biscornu? I mentioned that it's derived from the French word for bizarre or weird. It's just a weird little thing. And that's really about as far as it goes. It's just a weird little thing. It's a fun little object that can be really easily made with cross-stitch fabric. People sometimes use them as pincushions. The one I'm going to be making today is intended as a Christmas tree ornament. I've even seen super large ones filled with buckwheat husks to use as zafus or floor meditation pillows. So the limit there is really only your imagination. Now, before we get too much farther, I do want to remind you to join the Caterpillar Cross Stitch VIP Stitch Club. There's a link down there in the description, and when you join, you'll get 10% off your first order. You'll get a digital ebook with 8 free cross-stitch patterns in it, and you'll get a download of our top 10 cross-stitching tips. So hit that link and get all of those great perks. Do it. Go on. What are you waiting for? So last week I gave you some tips for selecting your pattern and some best processes as far as stitching it so that it'll be easier to assemble. So let's just go ahead and get right in and put together the one that I gave you a little sneak peek of last time. This is the pattern for that Christmas ornament Biscornu that I mentioned. In the previous video I said that you would want to leave a ½ inch of a seam allowance, and so that's what I'm measuring out right now. Fortunately, cross-stitching fabric has a straight weave in it, so you can just make a single mark and then cut right along the weave of that. So that's what I'm going to be doing here. You'll also notice that I've left some space between the two. In order to save fabric and time, I stitched them on a single piece of fabric, but I'm going to have to cut them apart, and that's why I left more than an inch of space between, because I need that ½ inch seam allowance on each one of them. So that inch plus in the middle there leaves me that ½ inch per piece. So I couldn't find my nice dressmaking shears, so I'm just cutting these apart with my embroidery scissors, but it would have been a little faster if I'd had the proper scissors, so let's speed this along. Now I'm going to trim my corners here a little bit just so that the corners on the inside will be a little bit easier to turn and there won't be quite so much a bulk of a fabric when I go to stuff it. Don't need to be super precise about this, just leave a little under ¼ inch or so between the corner of your backstitch border and the outside edge that you cut off. So now I'm going to start turning my edges. So I'm just going to fold the fabric here right along that backstitch line. It's really easy to make a crease that goes right along the direction of the weave of the fabric, so I don't really even have to do anything special. I just fold that under, and I'm going to do that on both pieces of the first 2 edges that I'm going to sew together. And as I've mentioned, the way we're going to be piecing these together is we're going to be piecing the corner of one square against the center of the side of another square. So I'm going to need to count in from the corner half of the number of stitches that this is wide. So this pattern is 50 stitches wide, so I'm going to count in 25. Now I have done this a little bit different than what I would normally actually recommend, and that is I have stitched my back stitch border around the outside over every two stitches instead of over every one stitch. That's because I accidentally stitched this on 18 count, and I was worried you wouldn't be able to see my stitches. So to do that, I made them a little bit bigger. But what I would recommend you doing on yours is stitching on 14 and make all of your back stitch lines in your back stitch border exactly 1 stitch long. Now I've marked the center of the wreath side of this ornament with a pin so that I'll be able to spot the center. And to make things easy for myself to start, I'm just going to do this with a loop start, but I'm just going to wrap my loop around my back stitch line inside. So then to get started sewing, all I need to do is line up the end of one side with the middle of the other, stitch for stitch, and I will bring my needle in through that first one. I'm just going to pass under the edge of the stitch. I forgot to bring my thread around to the front first. But it'll just pass under that stitch, and we're going to do what's called a whip stitch. It's called a whip stitch, I think, for 2 reasons. One, because it's just super fast. You can just whip it out. And the other is that the stitch spirals around whatever it is that you're trying to sew, like a whip does when it wraps around something. So once I get this needle through here so I can bring it back into frame. Sorry, I haven't got very good focus here, but I will just go under one stitch, over both, and then come back under both stitches again. Hopefully I'll get better focus on this in just a minute. So hopefully you can kind of see what's starting to form here is just a spiraling stitch that runs around the back stitch line. We're basically just lashing those back stitches together. Takes a little bit of getting used to. Let me get this focused. There we go. That's much better. Now I'm also using a contrasting thread here so that you'll be able to see. Well, so that you can see, and also for aesthetic reasons, because I'm attempting to replicate the look of a candy cane with that spiraling stitch that goes around, and that wound up super cute. So once you get going and the stitches just keep holding it in place for you, it becomes very fast to just whip those back stitch lines together until you get to the first corner. So let's fast forward to that. So now we've gotten to our first corner here on one of the pieces. And so really all we're going to do is just bend the one that's straight around the corner in the one that we're on the corner of, and continue going along one stitch at a time, lashing one back stitch to the corresponding back stitch on the other piece, and that will naturally form the fabric into the shape that we want. So from here, after we do this first stitch around the corner, we can just continue on in exactly the same way. So let's fast forward again for a while. While we're watching me work at blinding fast speed that I wish I could accomplish in real life, I want to take a moment to recommend to you that you join the Caterpillar Cross Stitch Facebook group and follow the Instagram feed. There are thousands of stitchers in that really excellent community that has grown up around the Caterpillar Cross Stitch family, and there are a lot of people there that can answer questions way faster and better than me and can be available at all hours basically. But if something I say doesn't quite make sense, or if you need it explained in a different way, that can be a really great resource to go to. Also, I love this pattern. It's one of the favorite things that I've designed. One of the things I really like about it is how the little Christmas light strands that run around what will be the outside edge of the Biscornu just line up right across the gaps there. It's really cute. I'm very happy with this pattern. Since Sally doesn't have any Biscornu patterns, she agreed to let me use mine for this video, and I have offered a discount for all Caterpillar Cross Stitch fans, so check the description for your discount code. Once we've got it sewn most of the way along, that's when we're going to want to pause and put our stuffing in. A lot of people like to use quilt batting or stuffed animal stuffing that's available at your major craft stores, or you can cut open a stuffed animal and steal the stuffing out of it. But one of the ideas I got off of the Caterpillar Cross Stitch blog that I really liked was to stuff a Biscornu with orts, the little thread scraps that you have after you complete any project. Now, I'm honestly ashamed of them that they missed the opportunity to make the joke Biscornu, because honestly one should never pass an opportunity to make a pun, but I'll pick up that mantle gladly. So we're making this a Biscornu. So I've got a bag of my orts here that I'm just going to go ahead and grab, and we will get this thing stuffed. Now, whether you're using polyfill or quilt batting or whatever else you might be using to stuff your Biscornu, I suggest using small pieces. Just stuff it in there a little bit at a time. Makes it easier to get into the crannies and make sure you get a nice even fill. Don't judge me for how long some of these pieces are in my scrap pile. Some of them had a knot, or some of them had stuff spilled on them or whatever. I try to be fairly efficient, but floss is inexpensive and my time has value, so I don't spend a long time trying to save floss or trying to undo knots. Sometimes I'll just toss it. So let's fast forward through this stuffing process here while I do it a little bit at a time, shoving it down all the way into the corners there. Now that I've got it all stuffed, I am just going to go ahead and fold the final seam allowances in, make sure that they're stuffed down inside there, and I'm going to just continue right along my thread path, running that whip stitch under all of my backstitch stitches and lashing that thing together. So let's fast forward till we get to the end. Now once we get to the very end here, you can really just secure it with whatever kind of knot you like. I like to tie a knot and then tuck my tail down inside and then pull it up through the surface and cut it so that I don't have a visible tail from my knot there. But there we have it, a cute little Christmas ornament Biscornu, sewn and stuffed. Now that it's all sewn together, if you want to hang it as an ornament, you'll want to add a loop to one side of it so that it hangs upright. Or if you're going to use it as a pin cushion, you may want to sew buttons on either side of it. My process for doing this has turned out a little bit sloppy, so I'm going to rely on you to maybe explain to me how you would do it. Let me know in the comments, and maybe we can collaborate on another future video about how to sew a button onto a Biscornu. But until then, I do want to thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, give it a like, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. For Caterpillar Cross Stitch, my name is Ford, and I will see you next time.